Hi, welcome to Business in View. I'm Denise Nichols, and with me today is Trisha Tannis. She is the Managing Director of Unicomer and also the President of the Barbados Chamber of Commerce and Industry. And Business in View was set up for people just like yourself to listen in and get insights from people like Trisha, who can share based on her experience, based on her knowledge, based on her training, and the fact that she has been in business for so long. I think you were the CEO or the managing director. I keep interchanging those titles at Unicomer for over 20 years. Am I correct?
Well, I was managing director for about going 10, 11 years now. But I was in senior finance roles for almost 21 years, yeah.
Okay, awesome. So you see, we're going to learn a lot today. But before we get serious, we're going to learn a little bit about Trish, a little fun fact, something to just let our hair down and learn a little bit more about the person and not just the profession.
Well, Denise, thanks to all of your viewers as well. Fantastic idea. Let me just endorse the work that you're doing and to encourage like-minded individuals to support and to come on board firstly. Denise and I, we've had a very long relationship, and we respect each other as businesswomen, and that has been something that I think we give God thanks for. Mm-hmm. A little bit about me. Married to my wonderful husband Patrick. I have two beautiful children, Michael and Abby. And I have recently acquired a pet, Duke, who I hope you don't have to be introduced to during this recording. Oh dear, but he is a handful. For me, fun fact, I am an avid reader of Christian end-time fictional novels. That is what I love to do. My favorite authors in that regard are Jerry Jenkins. He is a co-author of that famous Left Behind series. And I've recently discovered Bodhi Theon. So she's my new fictional end-time Christian novelist of note. So that's just a bit about me in terms of fun facts.
Wow, I never even thought of that. Christian fiction.
End time in particular. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, end time in particular, you said?
Yes.
Wow. Yeah. Do you find it scary? You're reading about the end time?
It's a very, very interesting question. I remember when I was a teenager, and back then you used to hear a lot more about Jesus' second coming, and a lot of that was very prevalent. I think unfortunately we've fallen away from that now in modern times, and I think it's a mistake. But back then, when I had a youth leader at the time who asked, "Why would you be afraid? Because you're not going to be here, are you?" And I thought, yeah, that's true. Good idea. I don't intend to be here, so why am I afraid? So from that moment, I ceased being afraid and just tried to live my life such that when Jesus makes his second appearing, I will appear.
Amen. I find it very interesting, though, that you will be reading the fiction on the end time because, like I said, most people, when they think about the fact that there will be a rapture and people will be disappearing, but like you leader rightly said, you will be gone. So what's the problem?
Yes. And we have to take as many people with us. So exactly. I think that's the important lesson here.
That's true. I actually was going to jump off that and said that I just want to stick a pin here a little bit and just do a little segue into that. We're talking about business, but the serious business is that Jesus is Lord and that we as people need to give our lives over to him. Nothing we can accomplish can be accomplished on our own. Even Trish in the business arena, what she has accomplished was because of the goodness of God and the fact that he led her all this way and he kept her all this time. So I'm just telling you, those who are listening, the real key to success, the word of God said, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. So the real key to success, that's a little idea for you today. Serve the Lord and so your life will go along. Well, Trisha, amen. I just want to hear a little bit about your journey in terms of how you got to this point, because you didn't just wake up and be fabulous. I mean, looking at you all might think that, but it calls for some kind of effort.
That's a fantastic bridge from the last comment. As a matter of fact, my children told me when they look at my baby pictures and my childhood pictures, they say, "Wow, Mom, you had to glow up." No, that's a young people term for the fact that you look ugly, and no, you don't.
Well, you're certainly doing fantastic. So let's go with that.
But great follow-on question, because that's exactly my journey. I had a very unscripted, low-keyed, traditional vision of my life. My perfect plan was to qualify in something and maybe spend the rest of my career in a corner office, or in an office with a secretary and a plant, nobody knowing who I was, and just getting on with it. I didn't even know what my career path was. I remember I went to community college with the intention of being an architect, and somehow walked away from the interview signing up for accounts, law, and maths. Through God's goodness and providence, they selected the valedictorian for my graduating year from the law class. And I fell in love with that subject so much that I was one of the outstanding students there, and God's hand led them to select me as a valedictorian for that year. And even that then didn't really cement any particular career path. I remember standing in the line at UE, about to step forward and to have to say something and tick something on the form. And I remember a friend at that time saying, "Why you don't choose accounts?" And I said, "Okay, yeah, sure." I took the accounts. That was as deep and as profound as it was. So it is just a story of kind of stumbling through, mumbling through, no large career path. By 20 I would do this, and by 30 I would do that, and by 40 I would achieve that. Nothing of the sort. So I did fairly well at UE, and decided ultimately to pursue a career in accounting, and I qualified there and decided to leap off around 27, 28 into what we call the real world, out of the audit profession into full-time client role as financial controller. From then, I have to say that God has been faithful, Denise. I remember putting my career on the line, not once, but a couple times. I remember once when I had to stand up to my employer because I didn't want to be associated, for example, with gambling on television. And as an auditor, as you know, auditors are required to stand and be physically associated with the activity. And I remember having to speak out on behalf of the Christians in the organization that we weren't comfortable with that, and if they could choose other persons. That didn't go down very well with my employers at the time, and I think it caused a bit of a rift. But God's hand was on me. Then I remember very quickly too, as I moved on from there, I had identified certain issues that I had brought to my boss's attention, and again, I dug my heels in, and I put it all on the line. And ultimately, God, I think, blessed and favored those decisions. But, as you're developing your career and you're just, taking out, a new mortgage and you're starting off, those types of decisions were not very easy. But I do believe that God has rewarded me, and He's been faithful, and His providence has really, been very, very strong in my life. He's been very faithful. And from then on, there was a low point where after, I demonstrated such courage and bravery, the enemy kind of played on my mind, and I started suffering with anxiety attacks for the first time in my life. And my husband, Patrick, he really had to come alongside of me, and pray me through that episode, because it was just an anxiety that came about with, okay, well, you've challenged these people, or, the uncertainty of what's next. And to make a long story short, as God moved things, I ended up being given a role that I never anticipated that I would have. Because God put me in the right place at the right time. And when that void presented itself, I was offered the role. And each time successively, I thought that I was about to jump into very, very deep waters, get in very deeply over my head. But every single time there was a voice saying, do it. You have to do it. You know, whether it was, you know, opportunities like this don't come along too often. So, you know, don't spend the rest of your life regretting what could have been, and see what God can do. And ultimately, I became the finance director of Unicomer. And that was a very challenging role. And I was faithful in that. And then the vacancy for the managing director role came up. And
Well,
my life was very quiet, very, you know, private, very manageable. But yet God kept putting these very public, very large opportunities in my way, and then creating an environment where I felt compelled that I had to do it.
because
So,
God trusts
um,
you, Trish. If
hmm,
God can trust you, because
well,
despite
I,
the role He asks you to do, you step up
mhm,
to the plate each time, and they became
yeah,
even more challenging. And you just say,
yes,
well, God, you and I are majority, and we can get it done. So it's a
yeah,
level of obedience and trust mixed together.
yes. So for most of these things, you know, I've had this big hand in my back pushing me forward, if you could imagine. And I am faced basically saying, yeah, okay, I'm interested, but like, you know, no, I'm really not. But
Yeah.
I have to be because, you know, there's somebody
That was not
behind
my
me.
batcher, right?
Well, and he helped.
I could saw
For
something pushing too.
he helped. He definitely was the voice of God. So,
I could so
but
see
no,
that, you know, you must stop me. I'm seeing
definitely,
imagery.
definitely. I'm sure he's going to be on your show, so I know everybody's going to get a chance to see that side of him too. And never want to back down, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So, but in every case, you know, I'll give you a taste of my first job, day on the job for Unicomer as managing director. So my previous boss left very suddenly, literally overnight. I had maybe about a week's notice ahead of everyone else. You know, he met with the team the night before, said that he decided to leave. This was coming just shortly after the courts chain in the UK had gone through a very public, what we would call receivership. They call it administration in the UK. And so it was part of the news cycle. So when my boss left, my previous boss left, it became very newsworthy, and it got sort of mushroomed under the umbrella of this entire course, you know, drama in the UK. So on my way to work on day one, I had the press calling me almost every 5 minutes from the time I left my house to the time I arrived at work. I arrived to find a reporter on my doorstep. It was all over brass tacks, all over the news. It was, and I remember my mom, my mom turning up with a bottle of nerve pills out of the blue and all the chaos. You know, I just gotta come. She just walked in my office and say, "Here, you need
Trust your
to take
mom.
these. You need to take these." Only a mother could for all of that and just come and say, "Look, you better take these, girl."
Usa, usa.
But she was right, and I did. I did, and God helped me through that. Helped me to settle the company. Helped me to take some very tough decisions, and that had to be taken at that time. And really was with me every step of the way.
See,
Uh,
is Trish, I know we're getting close to the run out of time, and so I
mhm,
would want you to share what insights you have for those people who are thinking to
sure.
get into business, who are already in business, and especially with the COVID-19 scenario. What do
Yes.
you do? Where do you go from here? So any insights that you
Sure.
can share prior to us, you know.
Yeah, I have a few thoughts. One, you know, in an environment where business is challenged, and in some cases, business owners may find themselves on the brink of bankruptcy, or something that they may see as devastating. One of the things I would like to identify is the fact that if you could identify a need or a pain point that nobody else is addressing, that is an opportunity. So every time you ask yourself, why doesn't somebody do dot dot dot? That itself is a need that you can fill as a new business model. Secondly, I would say stay very relevant to your customer base. they're also going through the crisis. Their lifestyles are changing. Therefore, what is relevant to them is a question that you have to continue to ask. What new services, what new products can be unearthed that would actually keep your customer base intact and give you new opportunities for revenue and for development and growth. Communicate directly and frequently with your customer base and be very aggressive in your efforts to do so. Be daring and relevant in your communication. I know sometimes we employ marketing agencies that want to be more subtle and more nuanced, but if you are the best, then say so. I know in Barbadian culture, we're not used to doing things like that. We are not used to comparing ourselves against others, but there's nothing wrong with saying, I am the best at this and this is why you need to come to me. And of course, back it up. You need to keep one step ahead of your competition. And really it speaks to who are you benchmarking yourself against. You cannot be benchmarking yourself against other players in the Barbadian market because then you will never achieve the ultimate of what you can. You shouldn't probably even benchmark yourselves against your regional competitors. Again, you need to look internationally, globally. And even though you cannot get there all in one leap, you certainly will have that as your vision, and you will basically take iterative steps towards the best in class and not just, somebody else in your class. And finally, I would say you need to keep your core business fresh, but at the same time, you need to be looking towards innovation and at the future. Don't just sleep off into the unknown because you just don't know what to do. You have to do both at the same time until you're confident you can develop a different core. But don't discard the current business model just yet. It is the core. It is what got you to where you are. But please keep an eye on the innovations, and at some point you may have to trade off and leap off on a safer footing then. But for the moment, you'll have to do both at the same time. So that's it from me, Denise. I hope that was helpful.
Well, it was helpful to me, because if you see a particular need and you're saying somebody should do this, then you fill that need. You're saying to be innovative. Do not say, well, your present business, okay, it's not working as I want to do, but it was your flagship or still is your flagship. So still work with that while learning new ways, and do not benchmark necessarily by the people around you or the companies around you. You have to go further and wider, because you know what's happening about this global village is even smaller than we think it is. And the business models have been changing, because I realize with the advancement in technology, there's mass adoption that people are looking for in the community effort. So if we can move in the community and bring others along with us, then that's a good model when we encompass others and pull them in and not be insular and look into ourselves. So I really, really appreciate those insights. And before we wrap up, I know I want you to be part of the community and the conversation, which you have given us your insights, you've given us, I know these shows are definitely too short, but on your other hat now as the Barbados Chamber of Commerce President, is there any information you can give to us or guidance as business owners, or, just share a little bit from that aspect?
Sure, and that ties into being part of a community of business owners as well. So at the Chamber, of course, we are very, very strong advocates. We have a highly respected international brand. We are part of the social partnership, and we're normally part of national conversations and dialogue as it relates to business partners. So I would advise, we're a fantastic networking community as well. And certainly going forward, we certainly are at the stage now where we're finalizing our strategic plan, reaching out even to more relevance, to be more relevant to our members. I would encourage anyone who's not a member to jump on board, regardless of the size of your business, or fees are scaled down depending on how many employees you have. It's not prohibitive, but you're part of certainly the community here in Barbados of business leaders. And when there is crises, which we've all had to face in the last 18 months, the benefit of being a community and part of a network of business people has certainly come to the fore.
Wonderful. I really enjoyed this conversation we've had. I know we have to have other conversations because there are other things that we can talk about, but we try to make it as concise as possible. And we don't want to bore you, but we want you to come back again, because there's more happening with Business in View. Listen up. There are other interesting people are coming on the show with different perspectives, different insights. So we want to say thanks so much to Trisha. We really enjoyed the time we spent, and we are happy that you came along with us, and continue being fabulous and continue jumping. because they're more
Yeah.
than enough to jump into. God bless you. Thank you so much.
God bless you too.